Myra stared at the horizon of the colony planet, her eyes tracing the jagged silhouette of the crumbling city against a dull, dusty sky. The air was thick with smoke from distant factories, and the smell of burned metal and ash lingered everywhere. This world had not been kind to humans, and for Myra, it had been a relentless test of endurance. Every day was a struggle to find food, water, and a small measure of safety for her son, Kale. Kale was 7, with dark hair that always fell into his eyes and a smile that seemed too bright for the world they lived in. He had inherited Myra's stubbornness and curiosity, traits that made him both a joy and a source of worry. Every morning she woke before dawn, searching for scraps, work, or anything that might keep them alive. But today, as she watched him play near the edge of a broken walkway, she felt a pang of fear she could no longer ignore. The alien consortium that controlled the colony had recently sent out a notice. All families who could not pay their debts or prove usefulness to the city's labor needs would have their children taken for industrial training. Myra had heard rumors about what this meant. Children were sent to distant facilities, worked to exhaustion, and rarely returned. The thought of Kale disappearing into that system was unbearable. She would not allow it. She clenched her fists and ran her eyes over the crumbling buildings where the poorest humans lived, their families huddled together in makeshift shelters. Myra had tried everything, trading scavenged metal, begging for food, working illegally, but nothing was enough. The aliens demanded more than humans could ever give, and now time was running out. That evening, Myra went to the central marketplace, a place where alien merchants dealt in goods humans were forbidden to own freely. The streets were crowded with creatures of every shape and size, moving in an organized chaos. Myra knew she had to be careful. One wrong look, one misstep, and she could be arrested, or worse. She weaved through the crowd, her eyes scanning for any opportunity, any chance to earn enough to save her son. A booth at the far end of the market caught her attention. A human trader, old and weathered, whispered of a way out, a chance to work for the aliens under special contracts. Myra listened carefully as he described it. The terms were terrifying. She would have to serve the alien society in ways humans were not meant to, living under strict supervision, stripped of freedom for an uncertain amount of time. And yet, the reward was unimaginable: security for her son, protection from the alien authorities, and a chance at a future that was more than just survival. Myra left the market that night with a heavy heart. She had no illusions about what she was agreeing to. Selling herself to the aliens was not something she could ever imagine doing, yet here she was, considering it. Her love for Kale outweighed every fear, every doubt, and every instinct for self-preservation. She returned to their small shelter, sitting by the dim glow of a broken lamp, her hands trembling as Kale slept beside her. The next morning, she made her decision. She would sign the contract. Myra prepared herself for the journey, gathering only what was necessary. She did not pack for comfort, for this was no ordinary trip. It was a step into the unknown, into a world that could either crush her or, if she was clever and lucky, offer salvation. The transport to the alien metropolis was unlike anything Myra had experienced. Massive ships, sleek and polished, hovered above the colony, casting shadows that swallowed the city. She was ushered aboard with other humans who had made similar choices. Fear and resignation hung in the air like a thick fog. Some cried quietly, others stared blankly ahead, but Myra kept her gaze forward, her mind focused on Kale and the life she had promised him. The journey was long and silent. Myra watched the stars outside the ship's observation windows, feeling a strange mixture of awe and dread. Space was beautiful, indifferent to human struggles, and yet it carried her hope forward. She whispered to herself, imagining Kale free from fear, safe and smiling. She promised herself that no matter what happened, she would not fail him. Upon arrival, the metropolis sprawled before her like a living organism. Towering spires pierced the clouds, gleaming with technology beyond human understanding. Vehicles moved in precise patterns above the streets, and creatures of every imaginable form navigated the city with ease. Humans, by contrast, moved cautiously, eyes lowered, speaking in hushed tones to avoid drawing attention. Myra's heart pounded in her chest, but she forced herself to take careful steps, observing, learning, adapting. Her first day of service was grueling. She was assigned menial tasks, cleaning areas that glimmered with alien sophistication. The aliens watched her constantly, their expressions unreadable. Every movement had to be precise, every error potentially catastrophic. Myra endured the exhausting labor, her body aching, but she refused to let despair consume her. Each night, when she returned to the small, shared human quarters, she wrote letters she could never send to Kale, detailing her experiences and promising him a brighter future. Weeks passed, and Myra began to understand the rhythm of this alien world. She observed weaknesses in their system, small moments of oversight where humans could act without immediate consequence. She also learned about the humans who had adapted, blending in with the aliens while quietly helping others. These glimpses of hope reminded her that humanity was resilient and resourceful. It was during one of these nights that she first heard about him, Ethan, the human who had made a life within the alien city and secretly aided those who sought freedom. Rumors spoke of his intelligence, cunning, and compassion. Some said he had once defied alien authorities with nothing but his wits. Myra's heart lifted at the thought of such a person existing. Perhaps he could help her save Kale. Despite her exhaustion, Myra began to plan. She mapped the city in her mind, noting patrol patterns, supply routes, and the movements of the alien supervisors. She realized that survival alone would not be enough. She would need strategy, patience, and courage. Each day, she forced herself to think several steps ahead, imagining how she could reach Kale, protect him, and eventually escape. One evening, as she returned from her tasks, she noticed a shadow following her. Her heart raced, but her mind stayed sharp. The figure revealed itself not as a threat, but as a human, cautious yet purposeful. "I know who you are," he said in a whisper. "I can help you, but you must trust me." She realized that her plan to save Kale was no longer a lone effort. It had allies. Yet even with hope, the stakes remained unbearably high. Every mistake could lead to her capture, punishment, or death, and the thought of failing her son haunted her every waking hour. Myra clung to one truth above all. Humans had survived against impossible odds before, and they could do it again. She would endure, adapt, and fight, because love for her child was a force no alien power could suppress. As the days turned into weeks, Myra's resolve hardened. She learned the city's language, its rules, and its routines. She observed, analyzed, and waited for the right moment to act. Every act of courage, every small victory reminded her that humans were more than fragile beings. They were clever, resourceful, and determined. Even in the most alien of worlds, Myra carried that truth within her heart. She kept Kale in her thoughts constantly, imagining his smile, his laughter, and the day she would finally hold him free from fear. The pain of separation was sharp, but it fueled her determination. Myra understood now that survival alone was not enough. She had to outthink, outmaneuver, and ultimately defy the system that threatened her son. And so Myra continued, step by step, day by day, navigating a city that seemed designed to crush humans under its weight. She endured, observed, and learned, her mind sharpened by necessity. Somewhere in the vast alien metropolis, hope awaited her. And Myra, with a mother's relentless courage, would find it, no matter the cost. Myra stepped off the transport and into the alien metropolis, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and awe. The city stretched endlessly in every direction, glittering with lights that pulsed like living veins. Towers of shimmering metal reached high into the clouds, while vehicles moved along invisible tracks, their hum filling the air with a strange, constant rhythm. Humans moved quietly along the streets, heads bowed, speaking in whispers to avoid the notice of alien authorities. Myra had never seen a place so beautiful and so terrifying at the same time. She was assigned to her first work post almost immediately. The aliens had chosen a district known for its sterile perfection, where human workers cleaned vast public halls and maintained intricate systems they could barely understand. Myra's first day was exhausting. The floors gleamed under her scrubbing, but she noticed cracks in the system, small oversights, patterns she could use to her advantage. Each motion had to be precise, each step controlled. Any mistake could draw attention, and attention could be deadly. Despite the fear, Myra's mind remained sharp. She observed the aliens closely, learning their routines and noticing how they treated humans. There was an odd mixture of indifference and strict control, a cold logic that seemed unbreakable. Yet in the edges of her vision, she began to see hints of imperfection. A patrol guard who repeated his route without noticing the human workers around him, a door left unlocked, a machine left unsupervised. Every detail mattered. Every detail was a potential tool. It was during one of these observations that she first heard whispers about him, Ethan, the human who had carved a life within this alien world. Some workers spoke of him with reverence, others warned to avoid him. They said he had once fooled the authorities with nothing but clever plans and quick thinking. Some claimed he had helped other humans escape, leading them to safety without leaving a trace. Myra's heart leapt at the thought. If anyone could help her save Kale, it was him. Her chance came sooner than she expected. One evening, as she returned from cleaning the halls, a shadow moved beside her, careful and deliberate. Myra froze, her mind racing through the possibilities. The figure stepped closer, revealing a tall man with a calm but determined gaze. "I know why you're here," he said softly, his voice barely above the hum of the city. "I can help you, but you must trust me." He led her through a hidden passageway, narrow and dark, until they arrived at a small, concealed room filled with other humans. The room smelled of metal and oil, but it was warm, safe. For the first time since arriving, Myra felt a glimmer of hope. Ethan explained the basics of surviving in the alien city. There were routines, patrols, and rules that could not be broken, but there were also gaps, small weaknesses that humans could exploit. He spoke of hidden passages, secret contacts, and methods of communication that the aliens would never detect. Myra listened intently, committing every detail to memory. This knowledge could be the difference between life and death for Kale. The days that followed were intense. Myra continued her work under alien supervision, but her nights were filled with learning and preparation. Ethan taught her to move silently, to read patterns, to observe without being seen. She learned how to use the city's technology subtly, making small adjustments to create opportunities. Each lesson strengthened her confidence and reminded her of the cleverness inherent in humans, even when faced with overwhelming power. One night, while Myra was studying the city's layout, she noticed a patrol pattern that repeated exactly every hour. A particular corridor would remain empty for just enough time for a human to slip through unnoticed. Myra realized this could be her first opportunity to gain a real advantage. She shared her observation with Ethan, who nodded in approval. "You're learning quickly," he said. "That kind of thinking is what keeps humans alive here." She imagined him in the alien factories, forced to labor under conditions she could barely conceive. The thought was unbearable, but it also fueled her resolve. She refused to let despair weaken her. Humans had survived worse, she reminded herself, and they had done so through courage, ingenuity, and unyielding will. Myra's opportunity came sooner than expected. One evening, a small commotion arose in her work district. An alien machine malfunctioned, causing confusion among the supervisors. Myra seized the moment, slipping through a side passage she had observed earlier. Her heart pounded, but her mind remained focused. She navigated the narrow corridors, avoiding patrols and surveillance, and found a hidden human workshop. Inside, she saw supplies, tools, and maps, resources that could aid her plan to rescue Kale. Ethan met her there, smiling faintly. "You're ready for the next step," he said. "We can't act yet, but we can prepare. The more prepared you are, the higher the chance of success." Myra nodded, absorbing every instruction. They spent hours studying patrols, plotting routes, and memorizing layouts. Each detail mattered, and Myra's determination grew stronger with each passing moment. As days turned into weeks, Myra became more adept at navigating the alien world. She moved with purpose, blending into her surroundings while secretly observing and learning. Each small victory, each moment of cleverness, reminded her of the resilience humans possessed. She realized that survival was not enough. Humans thrived because they could adapt, think ahead, and act with courage even when fear threatened to overwhelm them. One evening, while resting in the hidden workshop, Myra and Ethan discussed the plan to reach Kale. "He's not just a child," Ethan said quietly. "He's a symbol. Every human we save strengthens hope. And hope is more dangerous to the aliens than any weapon." Myra nodded, understanding the weight of his words. Her mission was larger than herself. It was about preserving humanity's dignity in a world that sought to suppress it. Myra's thoughts often drifted to her son's laughter, his curiosity, his boundless energy. She remembered the nights when he would fall asleep clutching her hand, trusting her completely. That trust was sacred, and she would not betray it. Every step she took, every lesson she learned was for him. She would endure the hardships, face the fear, and overcome the impossible. Humans had always found ways to survive, to resist, and to protect one another. She would carry that legacy forward. As the weeks passed, Myra grew stronger, sharper, and more confident. She observed patterns, memorized routines, and practiced every skill Ethan taught her. Her body was weary, but her mind was alert. Every day was a test, but she faced it with determination. Myra had come to understand that humans were capable of extraordinary feats when driven by love, courage, and necessity. Finally, the day arrived when Ethan deemed her ready. The time to act, to begin the rescue of Kale, was approaching. Myra felt a mixture of fear and exhilaration. The city that had once seemed overwhelming now appeared as a landscape she could navigate, a puzzle she could solve. Every detail she had observed, every skill she had learned, was about to be put to the test. Myra looked at Ethan, who offered a reassuring nod. "Remember," he said, "humans are clever. We survive where others fail. Trust yourself and you will succeed." Myra took a deep breath, feeling a surge of determination. She was ready to face the dangers ahead. She would not allow fear to dictate her actions. She would find her son, protect him, and show that humans, even in the most hostile worlds, could prevail. That night, Myra returned to her quarters with a new sense of purpose. She studied maps, memorized patrol patterns, and rehearsed every step of the plan in her mind. Her hands shook at times, but she forced herself to focus. Every detail mattered. One mistake could mean failure, but every careful, calculated move could lead to success. She repeated Ethan's words to herself. Humans are clever, humans survive, humans endure. In the quiet hours before dawn, Myra sat alone, thinking of Kale. She imagined his smile, his laughter, and the day when she would finally hold him in her arms, safe and free. That vision carried her through exhaustion and fear. She realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it, and she would act. For Kale, for herself, and for every human who had suffered under the alien yoke. Myra's journey in the alien metropolis had only just begun. She had endured the first trials, learned the rules of this strange world, and found an ally in Ethan. But the greatest challenge lay ahead, navigating the city to reach her son, outsmarting the alien authorities, and proving that humans, though seemingly weak, were capable of remarkable bravery and cunning. As the first light of dawn touched the city's spires, Myra felt a sense of resolve unlike any she had known. She had survived the city's initial trials, learned to navigate its dangers, and discovered hope in the presence of another human who understood the stakes. The rescue of Kale was not just a possibility, it was a mission she was determined to accomplish. And she knew, deep in her heart, that humans had an unyielding spirit that could shine even in the darkest of worlds. Myra sat quietly in the dimly lit human workshop, her eyes tracing the patterns of the city map Ethan had spread across the table. Every line, every corridor, every patrol route mattered. She had spent weeks learning the routines of the alien metropolis, observing from shadows and noting the smallest details that could help her reach Kale safely. Now the plan was coming together. Ethan stood beside her, his expression calm but focused. "We only have one chance," he said. "One mistake and it's over, but humans have a way of surviving when the odds are impossible." "That's why you're ready." Myra nodded, her hands tightening around the edge of the table. Fear and determination swirled together, but she felt a spark of hope she had not known since arriving. The first step was gathering supplies. Ethan handed her a small pouch filled with tools and devices that could help them navigate the alien city. Some were simple: wires to unlock doors, small mirrors to see around corners, and compact lights that mimicked the glow of alien technology. Others were more advanced, tiny devices that could interfere with surveillance systems for short periods. Myra studied each one carefully, imagining how she would use them. They moved at night, slipping through hidden passages to avoid the patrols that monitored human activity. Myra's heart raced with every step, but she forced herself to remain calm. She had learned that fear was a tool, not an enemy. It sharpened awareness and made her movements precise. Every corridor they passed, every doorway they opened, reminded her of the stakes. Kale's life depended on her courage and cunning. As they navigated the city, Myra noticed other humans in hiding, watching from shadows. Some nodded to her, a small gesture of solidarity, and Myra felt a surge of strength. Even in this oppressive alien world, humans could find one another and form connections. It was a reminder that they were not alone, that cleverness and courage could turn the tide. The next step was reaching the industrial zone where Kale was held. The area was heavily guarded, filled with machines that hummed with alien energy and corridors patrolled by sentries who never slept. Myra studied the patrol patterns, noting gaps of only a few seconds where a human could slip through unseen. Every step had to be precise. Hesitation could be fatal. Ethan stopped at a junction, pointing to a narrow corridor. "This is your window," he said. "You go first. I'll cover your exit. Remember, humans are clever. Trust your instincts." Myra nodded, swallowing her fear. She took a deep breath, stepping into the corridor. The walls were cold and metallic, and the hum of machinery filled the air. She moved quickly, silently, keeping her eyes on the patterns she had memorized. She reached a doorway leading to a storage area and paused. Through a small vent, she could see the guards ahead, pacing in predictable patterns. Timing her movements, she slipped past the vent, crouching low, her heart pounding. Each step was calculated, every movement deliberate. She could hear the guards' footsteps echo, but they did not notice her. Myra felt a quiet thrill. Human ingenuity was at work, and it was keeping her alive. Inside the storage area, Myra found a small cluster of supplies left for humans who might need them. Tools, food, and notes detailed secret passages through the industrial complex. She memorized every route, every shortcut, knowing that speed and precision were essential. Kale's location was close, but the path was dangerous. One false move could alert the authorities, and they would have no mercy. Hours passed as Myra and Ethan moved through the hidden passages, avoiding patrols and observing surveillance patterns. They communicated in whispers, each word chosen carefully to avoid detection. Myra marveled at the way humans could survive under constant observation, using intelligence and creativity to outmaneuver a species far more powerful. It was a testament to the resilience of her kind. Finally, they reached the section of the factory where children like Kale were held. Myra's stomach twisted with anxiety as she peeked through a small grate in the wall. She saw her son, working with other children, his small hands moving quickly as he followed the alien supervisor's commands. His hair fell into his eyes, and Myra's heart ached to see him in this situation. She clenched her fists, vowing silently that she would bring him home. Ethan handed her a device that could temporarily disable the surveillance in the room. "This will give you a short window," he said. "Move fast and don't hesitate." Myra nodded, pressing the device against the control panel. Lights flickered and the guards paused, confused by the sudden disruption. Myra took a deep breath, then slipped through the door, moving with careful urgency toward Kale. Kale looked up as she approached, his eyes widening in disbelief. "Mom," he whispered. Myra dropped to her knees, pulling him close. "SHH," she said softly. "I'm here, I'll get you out." "We're leaving this place." Kale clung to her, his small arms wrapped around her neck, and Myra felt a wave of relief and renewed determination. They retraced the route Myra had memorized, moving swiftly and silently. The temporary disruption in surveillance gave them a critical advantage, but they knew it would not last long. Every step was tense, every shadow could conceal a guard. Myra kept her mind focused, relying on the strategies Ethan had taught her. Human cleverness and courage were their greatest weapons. Halfway through the route, they encountered a locked corridor that blocked their path. Myra examined the lock, her hands steady despite the pounding of her heart. She pulled out the small tools Ethan had given her, manipulating the mechanism with care. Sweat dripped down her face as she worked, but within moments the lock clicked open. Kale's eyes shone with admiration and trust, reminding Myra of why she could not fail. They continued, moving through narrow tunnels and hidden passages. Myra's senses were heightened, every sound and movement analyzed. She could feel the city pressing in around them, the hum of machinery, the distant shouts of aliens, the rhythmic footsteps of guards. Yet she remained focused, her mind sharp, her determination unwavering. Humans had survived impossible odds before, she would survive now. Suddenly a patrol appeared ahead, their path blocking the next corridor. Myra froze, calculating. There was no room for hesitation. She whispered to Kale, "Stay behind me and be very quiet." She waited for the patrol to pass, timing their movements with precision. When the guards moved to the other side of the corridor, Myra and Kale slipped past, barely breathing, hearts racing. The city was alive with danger, but human ingenuity guided their steps. As they neared the final section of the industrial zone, Myra noticed other children peering from behind crates, watching her pass. Some whispered encouragement, while others simply stared in awe. Myra realized that her courage was not only saving Kale, but also inspiring hope in others. Humans could endure, humans could resist, and humans could inspire one another even under the harshest conditions. Finally, they reached the exit leading to the hidden human workshop. Myra pressed a small button Ethan had shown her, opening a concealed door. The corridor beyond was dark but safe, leading them back into the network of passages where humans could hide and regroup. Myra held Kale close, her heart swelling with relief. They had made it through the industrial zone without being detected, thanks to careful planning, courage, and the clever use of every advantage. Once inside the workshop, Myra collapsed onto a bench, holding Kale tightly. "You're safe now," she whispered. No one can touch you here. Kale's small hands clutched hers and he smiled, a smile full of trust and love. Myra felt tears sting her eyes not from fear but from overwhelming relief. She had done what seemed impossible. She had reached her son and brought him to safety. Ethan entered the workshop, giving a nod of approval. "You did well," he said. "Humans survive because they think, adapt, and act with courage. You've proven that today." Myra smiled faintly, still holding Kale close. The words felt true. Despite the dangers, despite the odds, humans had once again shown their resilience. The following days were spent resting, planning the next steps, and ensuring Kale's safety. Myra realized that reaching him was only part of the mission. They needed a secure path to the distant human sanctuary where they could live free from alien control. Every day was filled with preparation, observation, and strategy. Myra's mind remained sharp, her resolve unwavering. Humans had a way of turning even the smallest advantage into survival. Myra also began teaching Kale what he needed to know. He was young but observant, and she wanted him to understand how to stay safe, how to think quickly, and how to recognize opportunities. She whispered lessons about patience, observation, and courage, skills that could keep him alive in a world that often seemed designed to crush human spirit. Kale absorbed each lesson eagerly, and Myra felt a new sense of pride. Her son was brave, clever, and ready to face challenges, just like she had taught him. At night, Myra often looked at the city through a small window in the workshop. The lights stretched endlessly, a reminder of the challenges still ahead, yet she felt a quiet confidence. They had survived the first trial, navigated the most dangerous sections of the industrial zone, and brought Kale safely into human hands. Every step forward reinforced the truth she had known all along. Humans could endure, adapt, and overcome, even when facing forces far stronger than themselves. Myra's journey was far from over. The path to freedom stretched ahead, filled with unknown dangers and challenges. But she had Kale at her side, she had allies like Ethan, and she had the unyielding spirit that defined humanity. With careful planning, courage, and ingenuity, she knew they could reach safety. The city might be vast, oppressive, and dangerous, but humans had a way of carving hope from even the harshest circumstances. Myra held Kale close that night, feeling the warmth of his small body against hers. "We're going to be free," she whispered. "No one can stop us." Kale's eyes closed in sleep, a peaceful expression on his face. Myra looked at the map again, tracing the route to the sanctuary where humans could live safely. The journey would be long and difficult, but she had no doubt in her mind. Humans had survived impossible odds before, and they would survive again. In the shadows of the alien metropolis, Myra felt a sense of purpose unlike any she had known. She had taken the first steps to reclaim her son, to protect him, and to prove that humans, though often underestimated, were capable of extraordinary courage and cleverness. The night was still, but her resolve burned brightly. Humans had endured worse than this, and they had always found a way to prevail. Myra would ensure that Kale knew the same truth, that even in the darkest worlds, human spirit could shine. Myra held Kale's small hand tightly as they moved through the hidden passages of the alien metropolis. Each step was deliberate, each breath measured. The city above teemed with life and danger, but below, in the network of tunnels and secret corridors, humans like them could find brief safety. Myra's mind raced with strategies, mapping every exit and alternate path she had memorized. Ethan had taught her to anticipate every patrol, every surveillance drone, every possible obstacle. Now it was time to put those lessons into action. The industrial zone behind them had been only the first trial. Ahead lay the alien city's central districts, where the patrols were heavier, the surveillance more intense, and the consequences of discovery far greater. Myra moved with care, her senses alert to every sound, the hum of distant vehicles, the faint hiss of cooling machinery, the footsteps echoing off metal walls. Kale stayed close, trusting his mother completely, unaware of the full danger surrounding them. As they reached a junction, Myra paused, listening. A patrol was approaching from the opposite direction, its footsteps slow and deliberate. She pressed Kale against the wall and counted carefully. When the patrol passed, she led her son forward, moving into a side passage that would take them closer to the city's outskirts. Every motion was precise. Hesitation could mean capture. Myra felt the familiar surge of adrenaline, sharpened by love and fear. Humans had survived far worse by staying focused, thinking quickly, and trusting their instincts. Hours passed as they navigated the labyrinth of tunnels, occasionally stopping in small alcoves to rest. Myra offered Kale scraps of food and whispered encouragement. "We're almost there," she said softly. "We have to stay quiet, stay calm, and keep moving. Every step brings us closer to safety." Kale nodded, his small eyes wide but determined. Myra felt a swell of pride. Her son, even in danger, was learning the lessons of courage and patience. Eventually, they reached a point where the tunnels opened into a maintenance corridor that led directly into one of the alien city's service hubs. The hub was a vast room filled with machinery and conveyor systems, designed to move goods efficiently across the metropolis. Patrols moved through the area in predictable patterns, giving Myra a chance to plan her next move. She studied the layout carefully, noting the positions of the guards and the timing of their movements. Ethan had prepared them for this moment. He handed Myra a small device capable of temporarily disrupting the hub's surveillance grid. "You'll have about 2 minutes," he said. "Use them wisely." Myra took a deep breath, holding Kale close. The device hummed quietly as she activated it, and the lights on the surveillance panels flickered. The guards hesitated, confused by the sudden malfunction. Myra seized the opportunity, moving swiftly through the hub, guiding Kale with gentle but firm hands. The corridors beyond the hub were narrow and filled with obstacles. Myra navigated carefully, ducking under pipes, stepping over cables, and slipping through maintenance doors. Every moment was tense, every sound amplified in her mind. She felt the weight of the city pressing in from all sides, but she focused on Kale, on the small life she was determined to protect. Humans had endured impossible challenges before, and she would not fail now. As they moved deeper into the city, Myra noticed other humans in hiding, watching from shadows. Some offered small gestures of encouragement, nods, brief whispers of advice, or silent guidance towards safer paths. Myra realized that her actions were not only about Kale, they were about creating hope for others. Humans could inspire each other, even in the darkest environments, and that inspiration was as powerful as any weapon. Suddenly, a patrol appeared ahead, blocking the only visible route. Myra froze, her mind racing. There was no way around without risking discovery. She whispered to Kale, "Stay close and do exactly as I say." Timing her movements carefully, she waited for the patrol to shift their attention. Using a narrow side gap in the wall, Myra led Kale through a hidden passage she had spotted earlier. The patrol glanced briefly in their direction but did not notice them. Myra exhaled slowly, relief flooding through her. The final stretch toward the outskirts of the city was the most dangerous. Patrols were heavier, drones flew in precise patterns, and every corridor seemed designed to trap escaping humans. Myra moved with calculated speed, her mind replaying every step she had memorized. She guided Kale past mechanical arms, conveyor belts, and surveillance lenses, each moment a test of courage and intelligence. Humans had survived impossible odds before, and now their resilience was proving itself once more. As they neared the outer districts, Myra paused in a small alcove to catch her breath. Kale leaned against her, his small body trembling from exhaustion and fear. "We're almost free," she whispered. "Just a little further." Myra's own legs ached, her hands were sore, and her heart pounded relentlessly, but she felt an unshakable determination. Humans had a way of enduring, of adapting, and of overcoming even the most insurmountable challenges. That truth carried her forward. Ethan met them at a prearranged rendezvous point, a hidden elevator that led to the surface. "You made it this far," he said, a rare smile crossing his face. "Now comes the final part." Myra nodded, holding Kale close as they stepped into the elevator shaft. The machinery hummed around them, but the moment was quiet, almost peaceful. For a brief second, Myra allowed herself to imagine freedom, to picture Kale laughing without fear. The elevator emerged in a deserted sector at the edge of the city. Myra looked out over the metropolis, a sprawling expanse of alien technology and human endurance. From this vantage point, she could see the vast network of surveillance towers, patrol routes, and industrial complexes. The city was formidable, but she also saw the small pockets of humans surviving, hiding, and resisting. Hope was alive here in every determined heart. Their escape, however, did not go unnoticed for long. The sudden absence of 2 humans triggered alerts in distant parts of the city. Alarms echoed faintly, and Myra knew that time was limited. She and Kale moved quickly toward a series of maintenance tunnels Ethan had identified, a path that would lead them toward the city's outskirts and eventually to a safe human haven. Along the way, they encountered other humans who had escaped similar circumstances. Some joined them, quietly following through the hidden passages. Myra realized that their small group represented a spark of rebellion. Even in the face of advanced alien control, humans could act together, using intelligence, courage, and coordination to reclaim a measure of freedom. This thought strengthened her resolve. As dawn approached, the group reached a high ridge overlooking the outskirts of the city. Myra paused, scanning the horizon. Beyond the city lay open terrain, less monitored, where they could move toward temporary shelters and eventually toward a more permanent sanctuary. The journey was far from over, but they had overcome the most immediate dangers. Myra felt a surge of pride, not just in her own courage, but in the resilience of all humans around her. Ethan turned to Myra, speaking quietly. "You've done more than rescue your son," he said. "You've shown that humans can survive, adapt, and resist. Every person you save, every action you take, strengthens hope, and hope is a force no alien system can fully control." Myra nodded, understanding the truth in his words. Humans had always found a way to endure, to resist oppression, and to inspire one another even in the darkest times. The group continued moving under the cover of night, following the path Ethan had carefully plotted. Myra held Cale close, guiding him through the unfamiliar terrain. The children who had joined them looked to her for reassurance, and she provided it with quiet strength. Every step was a lesson in courage, patience, and careful observation. Humans had survived centuries of adversity because they could think, act, and endure when it mattered most. As the sun rose, the group reached a hidden settlement of humans living outside the city's direct control. Makeshift shelters dotted the landscape, and small gardens provided food. Myra felt a deep sense of relief and accomplishment. Cale was safe, and they were not alone. Humans had found a way to survive, even in a world designed to suppress them. Their spirit endured, adaptable, and unbroken. Myra allowed herself a brief moment of rest, holding Cale in her arms. She thought of the long journey ahead to reach the distant sanctuary where humans could live safely. But for now, they were alive, free from immediate danger. The city behind them remained a formidable obstacle, but Myra knew that humans had a unique ability to overcome challenges that seemed insurmountable. Courage, intelligence, and determination were their greatest tools. As the day progressed, Myra and the group began planning the next stage of their journey. Supplies needed to be gathered, routes mapped, and contingencies prepared. Every detail mattered. Myra took the lead, sharing knowledge, teaching observation skills, and instilling confidence. She had learned that humans thrived not only by acting courageously themselves, but also by inspiring and guiding others. By nightfall, Myra stood on a ridge overlooking the alien metropolis. The city below glimmered with technology, order, and control, but she also saw the cracks, the small signs of human resistance. The journey to freedom was far from over, but Myra understood a powerful truth. Humans could survive, adapt, and reclaim hope even in the most oppressive circumstances. Cale slept safely in her arms, a living testament to the strength of her love and determination. Myra whispered softly, "We'll get to the sanctuary. We'll be free and humans will thrive. Nothing can stop us when we act with courage and wisdom." The wind swept across the ridge, carrying her words into the night. In that moment, she felt a quiet certainty. The journey ahead would be dangerous, but humans had endured far worse. Their spirit, their cleverness, and their courage would guide them to a brighter life. Myra led Cale and the small group of humans across the rough terrain beyond the alien city, moving carefully but with purpose. The metropolis receded behind them, a glittering fortress of technology and control. But here in the open, the air was different, fresher, freer, filled with possibilities. Myra had not yet spoken aloud of the distant human sanctuary that Ethan had described, but in her mind she pictured it, a place where humans could live safely, grow, and thrive. Every step brought them closer to that vision. Cale trudged beside her, small hands clutching hers tightly. He was tired and his small face was streaked with dirt, but his eyes shone with trust and determination. Myra marveled at his resilience. Even a child, separated from his home and thrust into danger, could endure when guided by love and courage. She reminded herself that humans were defined not just by strength, but by the way they persisted, adapted, and inspired one another. The group moved quietly, avoiding patrols that still lingered at the city's edges. Myra took the lead, signaling small pauses when she spotted movement or heard distant sounds. Every detail mattered. Humans survived not through brute strength, but through observation, strategy, and quick thinking. She could feel the children learning from her, absorbing lessons in caution and cleverness with every step. The journey was as much about teaching survival as it was about reaching the sanctuary. As night fell, Myra found a small ridge where they could rest safely. She gathered the group together, sharing small rations and whispered instructions for the next leg of their journey. Kale leaned against her, exhausted but calm, his head resting on her shoulder. Myra felt a mix of relief and determination. They were not yet free, but the path forward was clearer. Every decision, every step was a proof of human ingenuity and courage. Ethan approached Myra quietly, speaking in low tones. "The sanctuary is still far," he said. "We need to be careful. Patrols may not be as concentrated here, but the risks remain. You've done well so far, but the final stretch will test your resolve." Myra nodded, listening carefully. She understood the stakes. Humans had survived impossible odds before, and now she would lead them through the final challenge. Courage, intelligence, and determination would be their guides. The next morning, they continued their journey, following hidden trails through forests, rivers, and rocky valleys. Myra's experience navigating the alien metropolis proved invaluable here. She could read the terrain, anticipate dangers, and keep the group moving efficiently. Kale stayed close, learning to notice patterns, listen to sounds, and follow instructions. Every small lesson was a seed of resilience. Humans thrived because they could adapt and learn, and Myra ensured that each child understood that. By mid-afternoon, the group encountered a small alien patrol. Myra froze, assessing the situation quickly. The patrol was unaware of their presence, scanning the area for any human movement. Myra whispered to the group, instructing them to stay still and silent. She moved slowly, weaving behind rocks and trees, guiding Kale and the others without drawing attention. Minutes passed like hours, but their patience paid off. The patrol moved on, oblivious to the humans in their midst. Myra exhaled quietly, her heart still racing. Survival required timing, courage, and cunning, the qualities humans possessed in abundance. As they moved further, Myra noticed the land beginning to change. The harsh, metallic landscape of the city gave way to open plains, dotted with greenery and streams. The air smelled sweeter, filled with the sound of birds and rustling leaves. Myra felt hope swell within her. They were closer to the sanctuary, closer to freedom, and closer to a life where humans could live with dignity. Kale looked around with wide eyes, taking in the beauty that had been absent from his life for so long. Even as hope grew, Myra remained vigilant. She knew that alien patrols still scoured the outskirts, and she could not allow carelessness to jeopardize their progress. Every step was deliberate, every observation careful. Humans survived because they combined courage with intelligence, because they could endure hardship while planning for a better future. Myra embodied that truth, moving forward with purpose and determination. One evening, they reached a river that marked the edge of the region monitored by the alien city. Crossing it was dangerous. The current was strong, and alien surveillance drones often flew over waterways. Myra studied the river carefully, looking for hidden currents and safe points to cross. She found a shallow area, marked by rocks that created small islands in the water. She tested each step before guiding Kale and the others across. Every movement was calculated, every decision measured. Humans survived because they could think ahead and act with precision. Once across, they paused to rest. Myra gathered the children close, sharing water and encouraging words. "We are almost there," she whispered. "The sanctuary is just beyond this land. We must stay strong and careful." Kale looked up at her, eyes filled with trust and admiration. Myra felt a surge of pride. Her son had endured more than any child should, yet he remained courageous, observant, and ready to face the final stretch. The journey continued over days of rough terrain. Myra led the group over hills, through forests, and across rocky passes. Each night, they rested in hidden alcoves, sharing stories and quietly teaching the children lessons about observation, patience, and resilience. Myra realized that the journey itself was part of the education. Humans survived not by avoiding challenges, but by facing them with intelligence, courage, and determination. Every step forward was a proof of their adaptability and strength. Finally, after days of travel, they reached the first site of the sanctuary. From a distant ridge, Myra saw the settlement of humans living in harmony, their homes nestled in the landscape, surrounded by gardens and clear streams. Children played freely, adults worked together, and there was a sense of peace that Myra had never imagined possible. She felt tears prick her eyes, overwhelmed by relief and gratitude. They had made it. Humans had endured, adapted, and triumphed. Myra led Kale and the group down toward the sanctuary. They were greeted cautiously at first. Humans who had lived here for years recognized strangers as potential threats. But Myra's calm, confident presence and Kale's innocence quickly won them over. The leaders of the sanctuary welcomed them, providing food, shelter, and medical care. Myra finally allowed herself to breathe fully, knowing that her son was safe and that the journey of survival had reached a victorious pause. In the sanctuary, Myra began to reflect on everything that had happened. She thought of the desperation that had forced her to leave the colony planet, the dangers of the alien metropolis, and the lessons learned along the way. Each trial had tested her, but each had also revealed the enduring qualities of humanity: cleverness, courage, adaptability, and the willingness to fight for those you love. Humans could endure unimaginable challenges and still emerge stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. Kale thrived in the sanctuary. He explored the gardens, played with other children, and learned from adults who shared stories of human ingenuity and resilience. Myra watched him with pride, knowing that she had preserved not just his life, but his sense of wonder, curiosity, and courage. The sanctuary became a place where humans could grow, learn, and celebrate their strengths. It was a tangible proof that even in a universe dominated by advanced alien powers, humans could create a place of dignity and hope. Myra also shared her experiences with others in the sanctuary. She taught lessons of observation, patience, and strategic thinking. She showed how courage, love, and intelligence could overcome adversity. The other humans listened, inspired by her journey, and began applying the same principles to improve their lives. Myra realized that human strength was not just individual, it was collective. Humans survived and thrived by helping each other, by sharing knowledge, and by fostering hope. As the days passed, the sanctuary grew stronger. Myra saw other humans preparing to travel beyond the region, seeking safety and freedom in distant lands. The network Ethan had begun expanded, spreading human resilience across planets. Myra's journey had sparked something larger than herself, a movement of humans reclaiming dignity and hope. Each successful mission reinforced the truth she had learned on the colony planet and in the alien metropolis. Humans, when united by courage and intelligence, could achieve extraordinary things. One evening, Myra stood on a hill overlooking the sanctuary, Kale playing nearby with other children. The sun set in brilliant hues, casting light across the land and the smiling faces of those who had survived. Myra reflected on her journey, the sacrifices, the fears, the moments of doubt, and the triumphs. She understood now that human spirit was unbreakable. Even in the darkest circumstances, humans could endure, adapt, and create a brighter future. She knelt beside Kale, taking his small hands in hers. "We made it," she said softly. "We're safe and we have a life full of hope and possibility. Remember, no matter what challenges come, humans can overcome them. We are clever, we are brave, and we endure." Kale looked up, eyes shining, and nodded, absorbing the lesson. Myra felt a quiet pride. She had preserved his life, taught him resilience, and ensured that he could grow in a world where human spirit was celebrated, not suppressed. Myra's journey had begun with desperation and fear, but it ended with hope and triumph. She had faced impossible odds, navigated a hostile alien city, rescued her son, and helped spark a small movement of human resistance. Her actions demonstrated the enduring qualities of humanity: intelligence, courage, adaptability, and compassion. She had shown that humans, even when considered weak or insignificant by others, could prevail in the most challenging circumstances. As night fell over the sanctuary, Myra looked up at the stars, imagining distant planets where humans might struggle, suffer, or face oppression. She knew that the journey of humanity was far from over, but she also knew the truth. Humans could survive, adapt, and thrive anywhere. Their spirit was unyielding, their courage unmatched, and their ability to create hope limitless. Myra smiled, holding Kale close, knowing that the brightest days were still ahead. The sanctuary was more than a refuge. It was proof that humans could overcome adversity through intelligence, courage, and love. Myra's sacrifices had ensured that her son, and countless others, could live in a world where humans were free to grow, to learn, and to thrive. The story of their journey would be remembered, inspiring others to believe in the resilience and power of humanity. Myra stood, watching Kale run freely with other children, laughter echoing across the settlement. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment and peace. Humans had endured, humans had survived, and humans had proven once again that they could rise above any challenge. The journey had been long and dangerous, but the reward was greater than she had ever imagined: a life filled with hope, freedom, and the enduring spirit of humanity.